When you make the carrot curls, you're going to use the peeler and just push really hard as you go the full length of the carrot, and that will make a carrot curl that you're going to use as a garnish. If you're juicing a lemon, microwave it for 10 seconds and then roll it on the countertop. That makes it so that you'll get more juice out of the lemon. Cut it in half, and then there are several tools you can use to juice the lemon. Probably the least expensive is a lemon ream, but I prefer to call it a lemon juicer. It sounds nicer. Just poke it in the lemon and squeeze and twist, and the juice will go down. It will have a lot of seeds, so that's why I have the sieve here, and that will give you the lemon juice. Another tool that you can use to juice a lemon instead of the reamer or the citrus juicer is one that's like this. This is more expensive, and it's nice because it all fits together. This has the sieve to get rid of the pits as well, and then all of the juice goes down into the bottom, and you have the juice ready to go. The lemon wheels will be done by just taking off the end and then making as thin of slices as you possibly can. The thinner the slice, the easier it's going to be for the next step, which is to twist it into the wheel. So we'll make the very thin slices, and then you just make a cut from the center to the outside edge and twist that, and that will be your garnish. The next garnish is an orange spiral, and you'll take the orange, you'll get the tool that has the little V-shaped projection, and then just begin at one end, push very hard, and then go all the way around, making one continuous line of orange peel. Then you'll wrap it around a drinking straw, taping it in place, and that will be your garnish for your food item when you serve it. And I will wrap it around that drinking straw the entire length of the straw, and it will stay in this shape as it is refrigerated. Then I just tape that in place. That is the orange spiral. This is what a ginger root looks like. Remember, when you go to the store, you do not need to buy the whole thing that's in the produce department. The first thing you're going to do is peel this. And then you will use the microplane, or some people call it a zester, to have the ginger ready for the dish that you're using it in. I usually peel it and then slice off the dried end, and then use the microplane to get what I'm going to be using in the dish. And this is an awesome tool. It's a lot better than the ones that you find on the graters that are in your kitchen, so we use a microplane, and that will give you the ginger that you need for the recipe. The next thing that we need to talk about is how to seed a tomato. What you'll be doing is cutting the tomato in half, east to west, not north to south. Go all the way through the tomato. Make sure that your knife is sharp. And the easiest way to seed the tomato is to just squeeze it, and all of the seeds will just drop right out. You'll use that in any recipe that calls for a seeded tomato. There's nothing wrong with the seeds. It's just an aesthetic thing that people like to have you remove the seeds for certain dishes. What you'll do with the celery fan is you'll have about a 4-inch strip of celery. Make sure that you cut off any dry ends, and then you'll take a small paring knife and, beginning 1 inch up on the piece of celery, you're going to make strips. I find that it's easiest to make them as straight as you can and then squeeze this part of the celery where you're cutting it so that it doesn't come apart until you're finished. What I'm doing is making super, super thin strips as I cut down the length of this celery, beginning 1 inch up from the bottom, and then I will put this in ice cold water, put it in the refrigerator, and as it sits there, it will absorb water, and I'll end up with a celery fan. This is what the finished celery fan looks like, and you'll use that on your finished dish at serve time. This is what the celery fans look like. The next garnish is a green onion, very similar to what you just did with the celery fan. You'll take a green onion, make sure that you remove any of the leaves or any of the parts that don't look appetizing. Get all of those off. Then you'll cut off just the little root. For most applications in recipes that call for a green onion, that means you're going to use the whole green onion in the recipe. From the white end all the way up to the green end. You do discard any ends that are cut or wilted, and you get rid of those. But for this green onion garnish, we're only going to go up about 5 inches. We'll discard the green part, and then you're going to do straight lines coming up about 1 inch, the full length of the green onion. You'll make as many of these as you can. I find that sometimes if it's hard to make real thin ones, you can pick up a pair of scissors and use the scissors to cut through some of these that are kind of thick and make them just a little bit thinner for the green onion garnish. You will then put this in water, and when it's done, it will look like this, and that's your green onion garnish. When cooking with meat, you need to make sure that you are safe and sanitary. Use your red cutting board. The reason we do the red cutting board is so that we don't cross-contaminate with any food. And remember that you can't kill bacteria deader than dead. So don't keep cooking it and ruin the meat. Meat is very expensive. After you've worked with the meat, anything that touches the meat needs to have a bleach solution put on it, and ours is 1 teaspoon of bleach in 1 quart of water, very inexpensive, and anything that touched the meat needs to be sanitized. With an instant read thermometer, you need to make sure that it is calibrated correctly. So I've put the instant read thermometer and the probe thermometer in this glass of ice water. If the thermometers were a perfect read, they would say 32 degrees. This one says 50 degrees. So that tells me that the thermometer is off. On the bottom of the thermometer, there are 2 little screws that you would just twist until the red dial changes to 32 degrees. Then I know that the thermometer is accurate. This thermometer is a digital thermometer. This is a probe. This part of the probe is not waterproof, so when you're cleaning up, make sure that you wipe it down, and both of these would have to be sanitized before storage. If the probe thermometer does not read 32 degrees, then you need to make some adjustments in your head. You need to figure out what the difference is between what it's reading and 32 degrees. Then when you cook your meat product, make that adjustment. When you set up to broil, you'll have the tray and the rack and your food product put in there, and then make sure that you have your oven set so that the upper element is the one that's heating. And then you need to adjust the height of the rack in the oven so that the food product is 4 to 6 inches away from the heating element, the one that is on the top. If you have a very thick meat product, then you will put it farther away from the heating element so that it cooks more slowly. The salmon is marinating in the marinade. You can use a Ziploc bag, which makes it really easy for cleanup. You'll just take the salmon out and then put it on your broiling rack and tray. This is the broiling tray, this part. The top part is the tray. The part underneath is the rack. It's much easier to clean up if you cover both with foil before you begin broiling. And I'll take the salmon and put it on. Go ahead and cook it with the skin on, but remove the skin when it's time for serving. Keep the oven door open and watch it. Salmon is done when you put a fork in, twist it, and the color has changed from this dark color to a light peach color. This is what it will look like on the inside. These are shrimp of different sizes. This one has the shell on the outside. These are already peeled and veined. Sometimes you can buy shrimp with the head still on. Not a problem, just chop that head off. I'm going to show you how to clean the shrimp. Sometimes they come deveined, and that means that the little black line along the arched part of the shrimp has been removed. That's the digestive system of the shrimp, and you want to remove that. On this bigger shrimp, I have the peel still intact. I also have the legs still there and the tail there. There is good meat clear down into the tail, so make sure that you pull the meat out of there before cooking. This is the part that I'm talking about, that is the digestive system. As you can see, that's black in the middle, and what you'll want to do is pull that out before you use the recipe. And I'm just pulling the legs off here, and then I pulled the tail off. If it's difficult to get that digestive system out, an easy way to do that is to just use a knife or a fork to scrape that out, or you can use your fingernail. I like to do it under running water and just scrape that out with my fingernail, and that removes that. When the shrimp is done, it will have a color change. As soon as it begins to turn pink, it's done. Look at the color difference between the one that's cooked and the one that's raw. This one's kind of gray, the other one is pink. You don't want to cook it too long. If you cook it too long, it becomes tough and rubbery. Do not overcook it. You're going to cut the tilapia into sizes that are uniform for cooking. Sometimes there's a thin piece of tilapia, and in that case, what you'll want to do is just roll it so it's about the same thickness as the ones that you're working with. The recipe has you dredge the tilapia in flour to begin with, and that means that you're going to coat it with flour. So you just take the tilapia pieces and you put them in the flour. I like to use ice tongs to do this with because it's nice and neat, and you just put it in the flour. Each piece will be covered with flour. Then we take it from this mixture to an egg wash, and then we put the crumbs on. So now I put it in the egg mixture, and right after I put it in the egg mixture, I'm going to put it in the crumb mixture to coat it with the macadamia nuts. And that's ready for baking right there. That's what it should look like when it's ready for baking. You'll put it on a parchment paper lined sheet and bake that until done. When tilapia is raw, it has a grayish tint to it. And when it's done, it will be snow white. So that's what you're looking for with the cook time of tilapia. When the tilapia is done, it will appear snow white. As it cooks, make sure you're checking the thinner pieces first because they will get done first. This one is an example of one that is done.